So it's no secret that Universal's 2005 adaptation of id Software's famous Doom games is not as beloved as many of its small-screen counterparts, continuing in the long tradition of critically disastrous Hollywood adaptations of otherwise popular or successful video game properties. But was it always doomed to be bad, or could something have been done to save it? Part of what I've wanted to do with this channel and the other channels I'm a part of is provide you, the viewer, with a better understanding of the creative processes behind a variety of entertainment art forms. Filmmaking is not easy, and I don't want any part of this video to insinuate that the writing and creating of feature-length films is a simple proposition. It isn't. But what I'm going to do is treat this as though I were a script doctor in the early 2000s. I won't know anything about the lore of Doom 2016, so every bit of story detail here will come from Doom, Doom 2 Hell on Earth, or Doom 3 and its associated expansion, Resurrection of Evil. When adapting previously existing works of fiction, the question is always that of a direct recreation in a different medium, or as direct as you can be, or creating something new within the already established canon. Bartkowiak's Doom does neither of these things. When my buddy and I watched this for the first time a few months after the release of id's 2016 Doom reboot, our initial reaction was that Bartkowiak's Doom felt like its Doom associations were an afterthought. It's not uncommon for studios to option scripts from writers that are reworked into specific intellectual properties before beginning production. The script for Doom seemed to us like this must have been the case, with Universal buying some random Aliens knockoff and then hiring a script doctor to work it into a Doom film. But this wasn't the case. This Doom film was brought straight to Hollywood by id themselves, as they pitched Doom 3 development footage to interested parties, eventually locking Di Bonaventura Pictures' own Lorenzo Di Bonaventura into the producer's chair. The expendable screenwriter David Callahan was brought aboard to pen the script, with Arachnophobia and Cape Fear writer Wesley Strick brought in later for additional polish. Here's how that script plays out on screen, for those of you that have not seen Doom, the motion picture. We open in space in orbit around Mars with a very Aliens Extended Edition opening sequence, wherein we see that something terrible is happening within a research facility on the surface. Dr. Todd Carmack is able to get out a frantic distress signal just before something breaches the door to his chamber. Cut to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson sitting at his desk receiving news and orders regarding this recent incident at the UAC's Mars facility. Dwayne is a sergeant for the Rapid Response Tactical Squad, and along with the rest of his team heads to a portal called the Ark, buried in the Nevada desert, for immediate transport to Mars. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, in Doom 3, all the demons get into the UAC base because of a portal that scientists have been studying. That must be what happened here. Wrong. So they all get to Mars, the facility is under quarantine, and now the Rock and company have to find the 6 scientists still trapped in the affected part of the base. The rest of the film is fairly predictable if you've seen Alien, Aliens, or Predator, with nearly all of the Marines eventually killed by monsters or each other, eventually culminating in a battle between an infested Dwayne Johnson and a genetically enhanced Carl Urban. Not your classic Doom material. One key point here, none of the monsters in this film are demons. The invasion of monsters is the result of genetic experiments gone wrong, not that of unrestrained cult activity or unprecedented archaeological discoveries. Doom is certainly not a good film by most modern storytelling standards, but upon rewatching it for this video, it is not without its merits. I actually found myself enjoying a lot of the dialogue and performances, a testament to the cast and I'd assume Wesley Strick's punch-ups.
So Reaper, as in Grim?
Marines, Sam, not poets.
But let's ignore all that and pivot to a fictional world where Di Bonaventura knocks on my door, lays down Callahan and Strick's Doom script and says, have at it. How would I fix this Doom script? Well, first off, I'd set it in the timeline of Doom 3 and Resurrection of Evil, as one would have expected it to be given its production window and release date. So jumping in for a sec, while I'm editing this video, I'm remembering now and fact-checked on the Google that some of these plot points I'm about to mention are very similar to that of Tony Giglio's Doom Annihilation, which I have not seen in a while, but it seems like he went down several of the same paths, or I went down several of the same paths that he did, setting the movie in Doom 3, and some of the character stuff that we'll get into in a bit is quite similar to Doom Annihilation. Different, but similar, so I just wanted to put that in there so someone in the comments isn't like, this is just what they did in Doom Annihilation. So we'd start in much the same way, with something going wrong at the UAC facility. Unknown creatures would pursue scientists and workers through dark tunnels, a misplaced footfall sealing the fate of one unfortunate technician. Another man runs into a closet and closes the door behind him. Something slams on the door again and again and again until the metal begins to buckle. Bolts fly off the frame and the door gives way. A behemoth cast in silhouette stands before the trembling man. In a flurry of movement, the creature lances forward and we match cut to an extreme close-up of a man's mouth gasping. The camera dollies back to reveal that it is the mouth of Karl Urban in the final throes of passion with an unidentified woman. The woman rolls off of him, and beneath bundles of sheets they exchange some banter about how they only see each other when Karl has shore leave. She complains that his life with the Rapid Response Technical Squad is beneath him, mentioning his previous life as an archaeologist, establishing some setup that will pay off later. As if to emphasize the all-consuming nature of Karl Urban's new career as a Marine, he gets a call from his sergeant, Dwayne Johnson. Shore leave's cut short. Time for a mission. Cut to a briefing room so we can introduce the rest of the team. In Callahan and Strick's script, there are 8 Marines, including Urban's John Grimm and The Rock's Asher Mahonen, which, though several less than Alien's dozen-plus Colonial Marines, somehow feels like too many people to keep track of. Perhaps this is more a testament to James Cameron's ability as a screenwriter than a slight to Callahan's script. Anyhow, this is the first moment where I'd really do some fundamental editing to the screenplay. In Callahan and Strick's version, the Marines, their call signs, and their distinct characteristics are John Reaper Grimm, our protagonist with the tragic backstory, Asher Sarge Mahonen, the one who's played by The Rock, Eric Goat Phantom, the religious one, Dean Portman, the pervert, Katsuhiko Kumanosuke Mac Takahashi, the one with the generic call sign, so we can make a joke about how English speakers often don't make any effort to learn how to pronounce foreign, especially Asian names.
You don't look like a Mac. Katsuhiko Kumanosuke Takahashi. So, Mac.
Gregory Duke Schofield, the one who's into Rosamund Pike, Mark the Kid Dantalian, the young newbie who gets made fun of, and Rourke Destroyer Gannon, the one with the heavy machine gun. It's obvious from the way these characters are introduced that they're closer in vibe to Arnold's Special Forces team in Predator than the Colonial Marines of Aliens.
A couple days ago, I asked Sarge for a little pussy. And the next day, he brought you onto the team.
Easy guy! Everything that Uncle John Barry! The other day I went up to my girlfriend. I said, you know, I'd like a little pussy. She said, me too. Mine's as big as a house.
Now, my question is, did no one even try to get the rights to use Highway to Hell during this helicopter sequence?
RRTS special transfer verified. Handle ID. Reaper.
Wake us up.
But to make this even closer to Predator, I'm going to do away with 3 of these Marines and combine their personalities into the remaining 5. As much as I love Ben Daniels' performance as Goat Phantom, he's out of the script, and will fold his religious sensibilities, sans self-flagellating tendencies, into Deobia Operi's Roke Gannon, whose call sign I'm changing from Destroyer to Preacher, since in my version he'll be the chaplain of this band of Marines. It really should be illegal to call a film Doom and not include anything demonic, so in this version of the film, the cast will encounter the denizens of hell, and it certainly won't hurt to have a Bible thumper on their side. The second cut Marine will be Al Weaver's The Kid, who will be combined into Razak Adoti's Duke Schofield, and now the newest recruit into the RRTS, and we'll say he got the call sign of Duke because in the academy he played a role in 12th Night. And gone completely will be Richard Brake's Dean Portman, because I don't really want to write a weird sex pervert into this script, even if such a thing were acceptable and humorous in 2005. Though to keep some of the fun character moments between Portman and the rest of the Marines, I'll make Yao Qian's Takahashi a bigger character and make him the corpsman of this group of Marines. We'll also change his call sign to something like Doc instead of Mac, so Karl Urban shows up to the briefing in time for us to get a little bit of character development from all the secondary Marines, a few moments before the Rock shows up and the briefing is begun in earnest. We get a few more details about the mission. Something has gone wrong at the UAC's Mars City facility, but with UAC Marines in short supply, they've recruited the RRTS to secure the UAC's facility on Deimos. The Deimos site went offline shortly after the UAC lost contact with Mars City. The UAC thinks it's just a communications problem, but they want to get someone in there to double-check everything is above board. Someone with combat experience in case there's some other unknown threat to the UAC's research that caused the site to go offline. The UAC wants the RRTS to rendezvous with the UAC fleet in Mars orbit to collect a UAC representative who will guide them through the Deimos base. In the Callahan-Strick version, there's actually a good moment when the Rock is briefing the team where he says their mission is to locate the team, eliminate the threat, and secure the facility, leading Al Weaver to ask the obvious question, what threat? Callahan and Strick choose to make a joke here, having Duke respond with a quippy, if it's trying to kill you, it's a threat. But the threat question is a good one, and for Dwayne to not have a good response should be ominous, not funny. So in our version, Duke, now the newbie, will ask, what threat? And The Rock will respond, they didn't say, or some such non-committal answer. This can lead to some speculation amongst the team, allowing for further character development based on their responses to the limited intel. We'll have a moment here where The Rock asks Karl Urban if he wants to sit this one out, and we can learn that Karl's sister is or was a researcher at the Deimos base. The Rock's just looking out for him. Doesn't want him to see anything that would mess him up. But Karl's determined. He's going to Deimos.
I guess you gotta face your demons sometime.
And now it's time to send the Marines to Mars, or more properly, Mars orbit. This is kind of a bizarre sequence in the original film. Firstly, when the Marines arrive at the Ark base, they all storm out of the helicopter like they're expecting to encounter some sort of armed resistance, but there isn't any. It's only an elevator. This hero shot is pretty cool, though. Then, as we're thinking, oh, maybe they're preparing for whatever is at the bottom of the elevator shaft, that too dissolves to nothing as they arrive in the foyer of a normal-looking UAC base, complete with liaison and calmly milling about employees. Then, when we finally see the Ark, we get a weird frames-long flashback of how one time the Ark sent this guy's legs to one place while it sent the rest of his body somewhere else. And it's such a weird but memorable inclusion that when, at the end of the movie, evil Dwayne Johnson is sucked halfway into the Ark, we think, oh, here comes the payoff from that weird bit with the guy's legs. Dwayne's about to get sliced in half. But that's not it at all. He just goes through in one piece, and then Karl Urban throws a grenade after him, complete with a wink wink.
Go to hell.
So forget all that. We're leaning into the aliens angle and giving the RRTS their own version of the Sulaco. Maybe we'll call it the Romero or something. So the Romero heads to orbit around Mars, where they rendezvous with the UAC fleet amassing in orbit over Mars City. We'll discover then that the UAC representative that will be accompanying the RRTS to Deimos is none other than Rosamund Pike's Samantha Grimm, sister to Karl Urban's John Grimm. We'll have some sort of playful reunion, but not so playful that it's not abundantly obvious that these siblings are estranged from one another. Now it's time for the RRTS to head down to the Deimos facility. I want to point out here that in the original movie, there are several really weird moments where, after establishing that the Mars base is under quarantine, they just keep going into areas with tons of people in them. People who are just going about their business without a care in the world, like they don't even realize they're under quarantine. And maybe this movie was more prescient than it meant to be. But unlike that version of the script, in my version there will be nothing but ominously empty halls to welcome our Marines to Deimos. We'll get the classic "where are all the people?" question from one of the Marines, and everyone will slyly turn to Rosamund Pike, who, though claiming she doesn't know where everyone went, is obviously hiding something. After a time of exploration, our Marines will come upon a locked room, giving us a chance to have a fun color-coded keycard moment, and reveal a room filled with blood, bodies, and demonic symbols. Symbols that will be immediately recognizable to Rourke Gannon, our chaplain. Toss in a couple moody Bible verses, and we've got ourselves a setup, not just a communications problem. From here, we can dive into a classic Aliens or Predator riff with lots of fighting, dying, and eventually escaping. We could have a couple of big reveal moments, like one where part of the team is trying to access a communications bay to get out an SOS, and on a hunch, Doc uses a sample of a dead demon's skin to pass the biometric lock, and the lock recognizes the skin as one of the base staff, informing the RTS that the demons are all former UAC personnel. We'll have our Doom 3 tie-in moment where the RTS recovers security footage of demons emerging from a portal into the Deimos base, a portal they'd thought was being used by folks on Mars to evacuate into orbit. All this would culminate not in Karl Urban fighting a kind of demonized Dwayne Johnson, but in Karl Urban having to actually go to hell to save Rosamund Pike, and fight an actual Baron of Hell to do it. They rendezvous back with whoever else from the RTS survived the encounters back at the base, and hightail it back into orbit. And that would be, by the bullet points, my Doom movie. I've got more ideas for these kind of script doctor videos, so let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this, and what kind of Doom movie you might make if you had the chance.